Hi everybody, I'm back again with more of the mark making series, and this time around I've got a series of pens here. These are commonly known as dip pens. What you do is obviously dip them in India ink, and once again I'll be using good old black FW India ink. Always try to shake up your ink just to make sure that all the solvents there are no chunks, let's put it that way, okay? So what I've got here is a typical so-called school point. I forget who makes this particular one, but Gillot makes them, Hunt makes them. You can buy them in kits, actually. Hunt and Speedball combined for a kit. What else we have here? This is a Quill Nib. Now, you may notice that the tip is flattened a little bit. I actually sanded that down to give me a different type of point. But these tend to be nice and flexible, although that one seems pretty stiff. I don't know. This one is a Speedball nib, primarily made for lettering. This is particularly thin. This is a C6 series. I'm going to show you some thicker ones. Sorry about the camera shake here. Look at the thickness of that one. This is for calligraphy. You can draw with them as well, and they produce quite a strong and varying line, which is kind of interesting. So let's play around with this. Oh, one more thing. This is a Chinese reed pen or bamboo pen, and it produces some interesting lines, although it tends to run out of ink fairly quickly. Let's play around with it. Oh, wait a minute, one more. I'll save that for last. Okay, so I'm just an experiment with this. I've got a piece of drawing Bristol here. Like I said, shake it up. Make sure the cap is on. This can be messy. You can see that there are chunks flying off it now. So let's try. I'm going to try, for the outline, I'm going to try the Quill Nib. So let's try this. Now, it's a bit of an art to figure out how much ink. I don't know if you saw that, but I just dipped it in there. Once again, good idea to have some scrap paper on hand that you could experiment with. Now, I'm left-handed, so I would prefer to experiment with my line on the right side. So anything wet, can you see that? Anything wet, I'm not going to run my hand into. So let's start applying this. Now, I would prefer that this is a little bit more flexible, but I'm not going to ink the entire thing because I want to experiment with some other stuff. But this produces a pretty good line, and there's a bit of flexibility to it, so you can get thicks and thins. There's a thin line. Let's give him another kind of jowl here. And I want to make sure we got this nice sideburn in here. Now, for the fine lines inside the face, and once again, I'm going to reiterate what I said in my previous video. I prefer to make the inside lines finer than the outside, but this primarily is for the purpose of demonstration. It's a little bit too dark, but that's okay. It's getting across the idea. And you can add like a little bit of flourish to the line work. I want these eyes to work. So I tell you what, let's move on to something a little bit finer. I'm going to try this nib here and see what happens. So once again, dipping it in there. Don't normally do this near the actual art because chances are you're going to drip some on it. You see roughly how much ink is in that little so-called reservoir. Let's try this. I want to experiment with this. Now look what happened. I got ink on. This produces a finer line, and actually there's a bit of flex there. So what I'm going to try to do is achieve, using deft and confident strokes. At least I hope they're confident. I'm going to give this guy a little texture in the hair just by roughing up that line. And he's got a little spume of... Now, this seems to be running out of ink fairly quickly. Let's see what I've got left on here. So you can add some very fine details. Once again, like anything else, it takes practice. So, little slight hatching there. I'm going to, I just realized that I think this should be a V-neck. Fill that in a little bit. Now, I think what will sell this, actually, I want to give this guy some ears. And now I think I want a thicker line for the hair there. So what am I going to do? Maybe let's I'll tell you what, let's give the speedball a chance here to perform. Now the speedball is a little bit different. If you look at that, you'll see that there's a little reservoir in there. So what I'm going to do is don't do this over the artwork, okay? I'm going to get a little bit of I tend to avoid doing that because it's too easy to drip ink on your artwork. Stay away from doing this right over top your art. But if you could see that, hopefully, I filled that reservoir. Now, sometimes these things take a little longer to get going. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, if you don't wash these out, they tend to clog up, but eventually they will work. Maybe. Maybe not. Sometimes what you need to do is dip it in there to get it going. And what have we got here? That sort of started it. Okay, cut. Okay, I think I got it going. Hope you can see what's going on here. But I've added some ink to the hair, and I noticed I didn't draw a straight line across those Vulcan bangs. Now, I mean, this is essentially a form of cross-hatching. I'm more concerned about the line at the moment, but let's just see what we can achieve here. A little bit of cross-hatching, and what I want is a little bit more up there. Running out of ink. Give me some more ink. There's all kinds of things you can do with these dip pens, cross-hatching, etc., etc. And I think I believe the Starfleet has a V-neck jersey. Anyway, you get the idea. All kinds of different lines that we can produce. I can apply pressure to this and get a thick-thin effect. Let's move on to this Yoda dude here. I like the Speedball. I've been using it for many years. And you kind of wear in these things. Good idea to wash them. What I use is a Fantastic Spray, it's called. Well, it's not just fantastic, it's actually called that. Now, I'm going to go back to the Crow Quill just for the hell of it. There are some more flexible versions of this Crow Quill. Now, as I said, I customized this particular one. I actually sanded it down so it flows across certain papers a little bit better. Like anything else, this inking stuff takes practice, and the trick is to redraw rather than just slavishly tracing the lines. So this is, I don't know if this is cartoon Yoda, baby Yoda, you know what I mean. Anyway, lots of things you can do with these. Cross-hatching. A little bit more consistent line than a brush if that's what you're looking for. And that just about wraps it up. Oh, one more thing, folks. I don't know if you know what that is, but I'm going to tell you. It's an actual porcupine quill, in this case an African porcupine. So I thought, why don't I try actually putting a little slit down the middle with an X-Acto blade and seeing what kind of line I can make with a porcupine quill. So let's try this. Into the ink it goes. And let's try and achieve a line here. Wow, that's a pretty cool line, actually. Neat. Quite flexible. I just hope the porcupine doesn't miss it. So, notice my hand is getting rather covered in ink. Produces a very interesting line, mind you. And there you have it. Thank you very much. Wash your brushes and your pens, please.